Hey folks, it's Aussie here. We all know why we're here, so I'm going to skip the introduction on the video. First of all, you're going to need a calculator because you cannot use your phone during the assessment. You are going to need a piece of paper and you're going to need a pen. So pause this video and go and get all of those things. I'm going to be using a whiteboard marker and I'm going to be using a whiteboard as my piece of paper. Now before we get started, I want to explain a couple of things. D divided by 2 equals R. What does that mean? D is short for diameter, divided by 2 meaning we're going to halve that, and then that's how we're going to find out our radius, and that is what R is. First of all, what's a diameter? A diameter is the distance from one side of a circle all the way to the other, which is why the symbol for diameter looks like this. Okay, so now what is a radius? A radius is the measurement from the center of a circle all the way to the outside. So it's easy to say that a radius is half of a diameter. Now, if we had a diameter of 1.8 meters, we could easily figure out what our radius is by dividing that by 2. I know that it is 0.9 off the top of my head, but however, I'm going to enter it into the calculator. Our outside diameter is 1.8, and we're going to divide that by 2, and that's going to give us 0.9. So our radius for a 1.8 meter diameter circle is 0.9 meters, or 900 millimeters. Now I'm just going to rub some things off the board as I go. If you need to go back and review what a diameter is, pause it, go back. If you need to find out what a radius is, pause it and go back. I'm just explaining the formula, what these symbols mean. Now, volume. What is volume? Volume is the physical size of an object. So if it is 1 meter long, 1 meter high, and 1 meter deep, then we're going to have 1 cubic meter. How do we figure that out? We multiply the 1 by 1 by 1, and that is obviously going to give us 1, so 1 cubic meter. Now we need to find out what mass is. I know mass is below pi. We'll get to pi in a second. Now mass is how much something weighs per volume. For example, 1 by 1 by 1, so that's 1 high, 1 long, and 1 deep, is going to give you 1 cubic meters. Now, if you have 1 cubic meter of concrete, now you should know by now that concrete weighs 2,400 kilos or 2.4 tons per cubic meter. So if we had 1 cubic meter of concrete, it would weigh 2.4 tons. Now, there's a rule of thumb only. Is there steel reinforcement bar within that 1 cubic meter of concrete? We don't know. Anyway, we'll get to that conversation some other time, or maybe never. So mass is how much something weighs per volume. What is volume again? Volume is the physical size of an object. Now, we skipped one. We skipped pi. Does anybody remember what this magical little symbol is? Now, I'm going to go into a bit of a guess and say that most of the people watching this video dropped out of high school. Could you raise your hand if you dropped out of high school? Yeah, I did. Somehow I ended up in the trainer assessor position. What is pi? So there are a couple of different versions of pi. If you were to ask me, I would say pi equals 3.142. Other people who have learnt from somebody else will say it's 3.14. Somebody else might be able to say it's 22 divided by 7, which equals, give me a second, 3.142857, etc. Now there's nothing wrong with any of these, okay? My pi equals 3.142. Your pi could potentially equal 3.14. Someone else's pi, if they forget it, they can figure it out this way. I don't know what the actual number for pi is. I just know it is around about that number. This number, or this range of numbers, does not change, okay? So while our diameters and our lengths may change, pi will remain the same. So you stick with what you know. If it's 3.14, stick with it. If it's 3.142, etc. I'm going to go with 3.142. Now the symbol for pi is this one here. It kind of looks a little bit like a Chinese character, or maybe it's a Japanese character. But anyway, I don't know how they come up with it. I don't care. That is pi. Now L stands for length, how long an object is. So now let's have a look at our dimensions that we have here. Our outside diameter is 1.8 meters. Our inside diameter is 1.6 meters. Obviously, if it's a pipe, it's going to be hollow in the middle. And the length of this pipe is 6 meters. So now let's have a look at our formula. I didn't explain this very well. V stands for volume, M stands for mass. If we multiply our volume by our mass, then we are going to get the total weight of the object. So now let's break it down. Now you know what the formula stands for and what the terminology is. Let's break this down. The first thing we want to do is find out our two volumes. So we have an outside diameter. Let's start with that. Our formula is radius squared. Now what does squared mean? That means you multiply the number by itself. That is why there is a 2 there. That does not mean we find out our radius for 1.8, which is 0.9. I'm going to write 0.9. That does not mean we do 0.9 times 2. No, no, no. That means we do 0.9 times 0.9. You multiply the number by itself. Do not press the equals button now. Now it doesn't matter if you press the equals button, it's just going to take you a little bit longer and make you write a few more things. And that confuses me as an assessor and a trainer when I see students do this. It's not wrong, but I just want to make your life a little bit easier. Don't press the equals button yet because we're not finished our first part of the formula. So radius squared, our radius with a diameter for 1.8 is 0.9. So 0.9 times 0.9 times pi times 3.142 times the length. Our length here is 6 meters times 6 equals, now enter this into the calculator. It might be helpful if you write the whole thing out before you do it in the calculator. Maybe not. It's up to you. 0.9 times 0.9 times 3.142 times 6 equals 15.27012. All right, I'm going to stop you right there. I just want you to take the first two numbers after the decimal point. So how it says 15.27012, take off the 012 at the very end. Just write 15.27. Do not round any numbers at this point. So 0.9 times 0.9 times 3.142 times 6 equals 15.27. Don't worry about the other numbers. They're a little bit insignificant at this point. That is our outside volume. So if this was a solid cylinder of concrete, there would be 15.27 cubic meters of concrete. However, it's got all this air in the middle, so we want to eliminate that air. How can we do that? Now we find our inside diameter, and then we get our radius from that. So 1.6, off the top of my head, I believe that's 0.8. 0.8, but I'll do it on the calculator. 1.6 divided by 2 equals 0.8. Again, square that radius. We're going to do the same thing again. So 0.8 times 0.8 times pi, 3.142, times length, which is 6 meters, equals, now let's do it in the calculator, 0.8 times 0.8 times 3.142 times length of 6 meters equals 12.065. So I'm going to write down 12.06. Now you'll see that those numbers are similar, but they're different. What we want to do is find out the difference of that. Okay, so the next part of our formula, which is not up here, we want to subtract our, let me get another pen for this one, another formula, another pen. That is part one. That's the most time-consuming part, by the way. The next part is a little bit quicker. We want to subtract our inside volume from our outside volume, and that is going to give us our total volume. T for total, V for volume. How do we measure volume again? Cubic meters. So it's going to give us a total volume. I'm going to go 15.27, our outside volume, which is 15.27. Going to subtract, that is minus the flat line. So 15.27 subtract 12.06, and we're going to get 3.21. That's pretty cool, 321. So 15.27, subtract our 12.06, and we get a total volume of 3.21. Now you might be asking yourself, what is this number? What does this mean? Well, that is 3.21 cubic meters of concrete. This is our volume. So 3.21 M3. 3.21 cubic meters of, what is this pipe made of? Concrete. If this pipe was made of steel, that number wouldn't change. The 3.21 is the cubic meters. How much steel or concrete or timber or whatever we have. Now all we need to do is multiply our volume, that is the physical size of whatever it is that we have, by our mass. Now, because this is a concrete pipe and concrete weighs 2.4 tons per cubic meter, all we need to do is multiply our 3.21 by 2.4, and we're going to get 7.704 tons. Multiplied by 2.4 is going to give us our total weight of 7.704. So this is meters squared, this is tons, this is our total, 7.704 tons of concrete. Now, if you were to multiply 3.21 by 2,400, because you like to multiply everything in kilos, the numbers are going to be the same. However, that decimal point will be removed. $2,400, and I write kg here now, then our total weight would be 7,704 kg. Now it's really important that you do not mess up this step, because it's not 7,704 tons, and it's not 7.704 kilos, is it? It's 7,704 kilos, because you multiplied by 2,400. Or if you multiplied by 2.4, you would have 7.704 tons. Now that we've done that estimate, we're going to take these findings, all this mess that we've made, and we're going to go and tell the crane operator this is how much the load weighs, because that's our responsibility as dogmen. We're going to tell them it weighs 7.704 tons. A crane operator is going to look at you like, what? 7.704 tons. Right, Mr. University students, that is very, very specific. And he'll be right. So what we do in Australia, we round everything up to the nearest whatever, 100 kilos, 10 kilos, or ton. So I know that there is 7.704 tons of concrete in there. I'm going to tell the crane operator, yeah, we got 8 tons of concrete. This is how much our first lift is going to weigh, 8 tons. There you go. Now a quick bit of a revision. D stands for diameter. Diameter is the distance from one side of a circle to another. Divide that diameter by 2, and we're going to get our radius. What is radius? The radius is the distance from the center of the circle all the way to the outside. So it's literally half of a diameter. Now R2, for all those Star Wars fans, I'm not talking about droids. I'm talking about radius squared. That's not radius times 2, that's radius times radius. So our radius is 0.9 by 0.9. What's that symbol? That's right, it's pi. And what is pi worth? Yes, 3.142. And then L for length. Our length is given to us here at 6 meters. If we need to get a tape measure out and measure something, go and get a tape measure out and measure something. And then V, which stands for volume, the physical size of an actual object. And we measure volume in cubic meters, or meters 3. And then we're going to multiply that by our mass. Now, what is mass? Mass is the weight of a particular object per size. So steel is 7,850 kilos per cubic meter, and concrete is 2,400 kilos per cubic meter. Now, you'd never make a pipe out of water, but if you did, it would be 1,000 kilos per cubic meter, because there are exactly 1,000 liters in a cubic meter. Apparently, I've never measured that. And then if we multiply our volume by our mass, we're going to get our total weight. So let's recap that again. We've got two diameters, which means we're going to get 2 radiuses, which means we have to do that entire formula twice, which we have done. Outside volume, inside volume, find out what the difference is between them by subtracting the smaller number away from the greater number. It's going to give you your total volume, or your TV, which is measured in cubic meters, M3. And then what we want to do is we want to find out what the difference is, which is 3.21 cubic meters, and to multiply that by how much mass a cubic meter of concrete is, which is 2.4 tons per cubic meter. And that's going to give us our total weight of the object. And now you know. If you like this video or if you learned something, leave a like, subscribe, maybe leave a comment. Let me know what I could improve on. I love to hear feedback. Cheers. I'll see you on the next one.